My mom called me selfish after I had paid her electric, gas, water, and internet bills for an entire year. Jasmine Wells was 31 years old, and by the time the word selfish came out of her mother's mouth, she already knew exactly how much her silence had cost her: $6,143, not counting late fees, emergency reconnect charges, or the nights she stayed awake in Milwaukee checking whether her parents' house in Madison still had heat. She sat at the long dining table with a glass of iced tea in her hand, while her mother smiled across the room like she had just delivered a harmless joke. "You could do more if you weren't so selfish," Ruth said, loud enough for everyone to hear, and Jasmine felt every fork pause against every plate. Her father stared down at his roast chicken. Her brother Alex gave a small laugh under his breath, the kind he used when he wanted someone else to be humiliated, but did not want to take responsibility for starting it. Jasmine looked at her mother, then at the ceiling lights glowing above them, the same lights she had kept on month after month, while Ruth texted things like, "Just this once, honey," and "We're short again," and "Family helps family." She did not shout. She did not cry. She raised her glass just high enough for the ice to clink and said, "You'll notice my selfishness when the lights go out." Ruth's smile disappeared so fast it almost looked like fear. "Before I tell you the part that changed everything, drop your location and the weather there. I want to see how far this story travels tonight." Jasmine had not planned to say it that way. Not at first. She had come to dinner carrying a wrapped ceramic serving bowl she had made by hand during a weekend pottery class, glazed in soft blue because Ruth always said blue made a house feel calm. The bowl was still sitting unopened on the counter, half hidden behind a stack of store-bought pies. Ruth had barely glanced at it when Jasmine arrived. She had hugged the air beside her daughter's cheek, then whispered, "Did you remember the utility login? Your father says the gas company sent another notice." That was the greeting. Not, "How was the drive?" Not, "You look tired." Not, "Thank you for keeping us afloat." Just another reminder that Jasmine's role in the family had stopped being daughter and had become emergency fund with a heartbeat. For 12 months, Jasmine had worked long hours as a senior facilities energy analyst, reviewing consumption reports for commercial buildings, finding wasted power in office towers, hospitals, and warehouses. She could spot a leaking heat loop from a spreadsheet. She could tell when a company was losing money through careless usage before anyone else noticed. Yet somehow, she had ignored the biggest drain in her own life because the people causing it shared her last name. That night, as Ruth's insult hung in the warm dining room air, Jasmine felt something inside her click into place, like a breaker being flipped. She was done paying to be disrespected. The bills had started the previous winter when Ruth called Jasmine at 10:43 p.m. and said the power company had sent a shutoff warning. Jasmine remembered the exact time because she had been sitting at her kitchen island in Milwaukee with a laptop open, reviewing a heating efficiency proposal for a hospital wing, when her phone lit up with Mom. Ruth's voice had sounded small then, almost embarrassed. "We just need a little help until your father's pension adjustment comes through," she said. Jasmine asked how much. Ruth hesitated, then said, $480. Jasmine paid it within 10 minutes. She did not ask why the bill had gotten that high. She did not ask why Alex, who lived 15 minutes from their parents, had not helped. She told herself this was what a good daughter did. The next month, it was the gas bill, then water, then internet, because Ruth insisted her church meetings were online and her father needed streaming to keep his mind sharp. Then the electric bill again, only higher. By spring, Jasmine had made a spreadsheet because numbers were easier to look at than feelings. Electric, $1,842. Gas, $1,376. Water, $711. Internet and phone bundle, $1,019. Reconnect threats, late fees, and urgent same-day payments. The rest. Each time, Ruth framed it as temporary. Each time, Alex had a reason not to contribute. He was saving for a new truck. His kids needed summer camp. His wife had ordered a kitchen renovation deposit before checking the account. Jasmine had heard all of it. What the family did not know was that after the fourth emergency payment, Jasmine started saving everything. Screenshots, voicemail files, bank confirmations, even the texts where Ruth wrote, "Don't tell your father how much I'm asking. He'll feel ashamed." Followed 2 days later by, "Alex says you make more than enough, so I don't know why you're making this difficult." Jasmine had not saved the messages because she wanted revenge. She saved them because somewhere deep down, she knew the day would come when they would deny what they had done. On the drive to Madison for dinner, she had almost decided to say nothing. The highway was dark, rain tapping the windshield, and Ruth had texted 3 times asking whether Jasmine could quietly take care of the electric before dessert because the account was being weird again. Jasmine stared at the message at a stoplight, then looked at the wrapped bowl on the passenger seat. She had made that bowl with both hands, smoothing the rim slowly, thinking maybe this dinner could be normal. Maybe Ruth would see the gift and remember that Jasmine was not just a wallet. Maybe her father would ask about her promotion interview. Maybe Alex would bring dessert instead of another excuse. But when Jasmine arrived, her father said, "You made it," like she was a delivery. Alex said, "Big city money is here," then laughed when no one else did. Ruth pulled her aside before Jasmine even removed her coat and murmured, "Please don't bring up the bills in front of people. It makes us look irresponsible." Jasmine looked at her mother's careful makeup, her pearl earrings, her polished smile prepared for relatives, and something cold moved through her chest. Ruth did not mind taking the money. She only minded witnesses. During dinner, Jasmine tried to stay quiet. She listened while Ruth praised Alex for stepping up lately because he had fixed a loose cabinet hinge. She listened while her father bragged that Alex always came when called. She listened while Alex complained about property taxes and said, "Some of us don't have the luxury of living alone with no real responsibilities." Jasmine's hand tightened around her fork. She thought of her own rent, student loans, car insurance, retirement contributions, medical bills, and the second job she had taken for 3 months doing weekend energy audits so Ruth's house would not go dark. She nearly spoke then, but Ruth got there first. "Jasmine has done well," her mother said, smiling sweetly, "but she could do more if she weren't so selfish." That was when the room changed. For 1 second after Jasmine answered, nobody moved. "You'll notice my selfishness when the lights go out," she had said, and the words settled over the table like a storm warning. Ruth's eyes flicked toward the ceiling fixture, then back to Jasmine. Alex leaned back in his chair and let out a sharp laugh. "Wow," he said. "Threatening mom and dad now? Classy." Jasmine turned her phone face up beside her plate. "No," she said. "I'm done letting all of you call my help love when you receive it and selfishness when I stop." Ruth's cheeks tightened. "This is not the place." Jasmine glanced around the table at the relatives who had watched her grow up, people who had accepted Ruth's version of the family for years. Alex was the busy father. Ruth was the long-suffering mother. Jasmine was the distant daughter with money who never came home enough. "Actually," Jasmine said, "this is exactly the place. Because the insult was public, so the truth can be public too." Her father finally looked up. "Jasmine," he warned, but his voice had no strength in it. Jasmine tapped her phone. The first screenshot opened. Ruth's text filled the screen in plain black letters. "Can you pay electric before noon? Don't ask Alex. He's stressed, and you know you're better with money." Jasmine read it aloud. A cousin at the end of the table shifted in his chair. Ruth whispered, "Stop." Jasmine swiped to the next one. Gas company again. Your father doesn't need to know. Please just handle it. Then another. Internet is due. I told Alex not to worry because you always come through. Alex's smile vanished. You're really doing this? He snapped. Jasmine looked at him. Yes. She opened a voice memo. Ruth's recorded voice came through the speaker, thin but unmistakable. Honey, I know it sounds like a lot, but what else are we supposed to do? Alex has children. You only have yourself. The room went quiet in a way Jasmine had never heard before. Not peaceful, not shocked, exposed. Ruth reached across the table as if she might grab the phone, but Jasmine moved it back. There's more, Jasmine said. 12 months. $6,143. I have every receipt. Her father swallowed. Your mother said you helped with a few small things. Jasmine turned to him slowly. Dad, your house stayed warm last winter because I paid the gas bill in February, March, and April. Your light stayed on because I paid electric 5 times. Your internet stayed connected because Mom said your blood pressure appointments needed online access. I did not embarrass you. I protected you. Ruth's voice cracked with anger. You protected us by humiliating me at my own table? Jasmine felt her throat tighten, but her voice stayed calm. No, Mom. I protected you in private. You humiliated me in public. Alex shoved his chair back. This is insane. You keep acting like you're some victim. Nobody forced you to pay. Jasmine nodded once. You're right. Nobody forced me. You trained me. That landed harder than shouting would have. Her Aunt Linda, who had been silent until then, murmured, Maybe we should all calm down. Jasmine, you're not wrong, but don't make it bigger. Jasmine turned toward her. Aunt Linda, with respect, people like you saying, don't make it bigger, are why it got this big. Everyone saw it. Everyone benefited from the quiet version of me. Nobody objected until I started speaking. Ruth's hand trembled around her napkin. After everything I sacrificed for you, she said, switching tactics so quickly Jasmine almost admired the timing. This is how you repay me? Jasmine looked at the woman who had taught her to apologize before she was hurt, to help before she was asked, to never let family struggle even if family watched her drown. Did you sacrifice for me? Jasmine asked quietly, or for the picture of a perfect family you could show the neighbors? The color drained from Ruth's face. The dinner was no longer a dinner. It had become a courtroom without a judge, and Jasmine had stopped acting like the defendant. Ruth stood at the head of the table, one hand pressed to her chest, the other gripping the back of her chair. You have no idea what it takes to hold this family together, she said. I am the one who remembers birthdays. I am the one who hosts dinners. I am the one people call when something breaks. Jasmine almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because Ruth truly believed the performance of care was the same as care itself. And who did you call when the house was about to go dark? Jasmine asked. Ruth's mouth opened, then closed. Alex stepped in, eager to rescue her. You make good money. Why are you acting like $6,000 ruined your life? Jasmine turned her phone toward him and opened another folder. Because it wasn't just $6,000. It was Thanksgiving when Mom told me not to come unless I could bring grocery money. It was Dad's medication copay that somehow became my job, even after you bought a new grill. It was your kids' school fundraiser where Mom wrote my name on the donor form before asking me. It was every time this family decided my independence meant I didn't need support, only demands. Alex's wife, Megan, stared down at her plate. Jasmine had not planned to mention her, but then Megan muttered, We all have problems. Jasmine looked at her, tired but steady. Then solve yours without assigning them to me. Someone inhaled sharply. Alex pointed a finger. Don't talk to my wife like that. Jasmine leaned back. Then don't let your wife text me last month asking if I could cover your water bill because she didn't want your kids visiting grandparents in a cold house. You all used the same script. Mom used guilt. Dad used silence. You used your children. And I kept paying because I thought love meant preventing consequences. Her father looked smaller with every sentence. He rubbed his forehead, and for the first time Jasmine wondered if he had known more than he admitted. I didn't know it was that much, he said. Ruth snapped toward him. Don't you start. Jasmine saw it then. Not just guilt, but fear. Ruth was not afraid of poverty in that moment. She was afraid of losing control over the story. For years, she had told relatives that Jasmine was successful but distant, generous but difficult, loved but not very warm. Those little phrases had built a cage around Jasmine, and everyone had mistaken the cage for her personality. Jasmine picked up her glass again, not to toast, but to keep her hands from shaking. Here is what happens now, she said. After tonight, I am removing my card from every utility account. I am changing the login information I created. I am canceling the automatic payments. If you need help, you can make a written budget. Show me exactly where your money goes, and ask respectfully. But the emergency daughter service is closed. Ruth's face hardened. You would let your parents sit in the dark? Jasmine's answer came without hesitation. No. You did that by ignoring every bill until I rescued you. I'm just not standing between you and the result anymore. Alex laughed bitterly. Good luck explaining that to people. Jasmine looked around the table. I just did. Her cousin Brian quietly picked up his phone. Jasmine noticed the screen light up with the family group chat. Within seconds, phones began buzzing around the room. Someone had written, "Is it true Jasmine paid their utilities all year?" Another message. Ruth told us Jasmine never helps. Ruth lunged for her own phone, reading fast, her face tightening with each notification. The public image she had protected so carefully was cracking in real time, not because Jasmine screamed, but because Jasmine finally brought receipts. Delete those, Ruth hissed. Jasmine shook her head. No. Alex grabbed his coat. We're leaving. Ruth spun toward him. You are not leaving me in the middle of this. Alex froze. His children were in the den, arguing over a tablet, sticky-fingered and loud. For once, there was no Jasmine silently stepping in. Megan whispered, Alex, go get them. Alex looked at Jasmine as if expecting her to move. She did not. She just folded her napkin and placed it beside her plate. That small motion seemed to offend him more than any insult. He was finally standing in the mess he had helped create, and there was no one left to clean it up. Then Jasmine's phone buzzed with an email notification. For a moment she almost ignored it, assuming it was another utility alert or another family message forming part of the storm. But the sender name made her pause. Marin Patel, the regional director at Northline Energy Systems. Jasmine opened it under the table, and the first line stopped her breath. We are pleased to offer you the position of Regional Director of Building Performance, Chicago office. Chicago, the job she had interviewed for 2 weeks earlier. The job she had almost declined before receiving the offer, because Ruth had been hinting that Jasmine should move closer to Madison, now that your father and I are getting older. Jasmine read the email again, every word clear and bright against the chaos around her. Higher salary, leadership role, relocation package, start date in 6 weeks, a company apartment for the first 2 months. She felt something loosen in her chest. Ruth was still speaking, but the words blurred. Ungrateful, dramatic, after all I've done. Jasmine stood. The chair legs scraped the floor, and everyone turned. I just got promoted, she said. The sentence seemed to confuse them more than the evidence had. Her father blinked. What? Jasmine held up the phone. Regional Director, Chicago office. For the first time all night, no one had a prepared response. Ruth's face shifted through surprise, calculation, and panic so quickly Jasmine saw the whole pattern of her childhood in 3 seconds. Chicago? Ruth repeated. That's farther. Jasmine nodded. Yes. Alex scoffed, trying to recover. So that's what this is about? You think you're too important for us now? Jasmine looked at him, then at Ruth. No. This is about the fact that I almost turned it down because I thought being available to this family made me good. Tonight helped me understand that being available to people who only value access is not goodness. It's self-abandonment. Ruth took a step toward her, voice softer now. Jasmine, don't make a major decision while you're upset. That nearly broke Jasmine's calm. How many times had Ruth made emergencies out of ordinary bills, but now Jasmine's career was the impulsive thing. I made this decision before dinner, Jasmine said. I just didn't know it yet. Her father rose slowly. Honey, we're proud of you. Jasmine looked at him, searching for the warmth she had spent years wanting. The words were right, but they came too late and too empty, like a receipt printed after the store had closed. Are you proud? She asked. Or scared that I'll be harder to reach? He looked away. That answer was enough. Ruth's voice broke. What are we supposed to do about the bills? The question landed like a final confession. Not, will we still see you? Not, are you okay? Not, how did we make you feel this alone? The bills. Jasmine laughed once, softly, sadly. There it is. Ruth seemed to realize what she had said, and tears filled her eyes. I didn't mean it like that. Jasmine put her phone in her purse. You did. You just usually hide it better. Around them, relatives had started gathering coats, not dramatically, but carefully, as if Ruth's house had become a place where anyone might be asked what they knew and when they knew it. Aunt Linda avoided Ruth's eyes. Cousin Brian muttered that he had an early morning. Megan was in the den trying to convince two overtired children to put on shoes, while Alex stood uselessly by the doorway, red-faced and angry. The perfect family dinner Ruth had staged was collapsing into unfinished plates, cold food, and whispers. Jasmine walked to the counter and picked up the unopened blue bowl. For a moment she thought about leaving it there as proof she had come with love. Then she tucked it under her arm. Ruth noticed. You're taking my gift? Jasmine turned. It was never yours. You didn't even open it. Ruth flinched as if slapped. Jasmine did not enjoy it. That surprised her. She had imagined revenge might feel hot, satisfying, cinematic. Instead, it felt clean and painful, like removing a splinter that had been buried too long. By 9:17 p.m., the first utility payment was canceled. Jasmine did it from her car in the driveway, with the engine running and the heater blowing against her hands. She logged into the electric account, removed her card, changed the recovery email, and downloaded the final confirmation. Then gas. Then water. Then internet. Each click felt small, almost boring, but together they redrew the boundary her family had spent years erasing. Inside the house, through the front window, Jasmine could see Ruth moving from room to room while relatives avoided her. Alex was crouched near the den, trying to zip one child's jacket while the other cried because nobody had packed the tablet charger. Megan's face was tight with embarrassment. For once, Jasmine did not open the car door and rescue anyone. Her phone rang. Mom. She let it go to voicemail. Then Dad. Then Alex. Then Mom again. She watched the calls stack up the way bills used to stack up, urgent only because someone else had refused to handle them earlier. A text appeared from Ruth. Please come back inside. We need to talk like family. Jasmine typed, family does not mean access without respect. She did not send it right away. She sat with the sentence, making sure it was not cruelty wearing the mask of strength. Then she sent it. A minute later, Ruth appeared on the porch without a coat, arms wrapped around herself against the cold. Jasmine lowered the window halfway. Ruth's makeup had smudged beneath one eye. For once, she did not look like the woman who could control a room with a sigh. "I'm sorry," Ruth said. Jasmine waited. Ruth swallowed. "Not because people know. I mean, I hate that they know. But I'm sorry because you were right. I made you responsible for things you should never have had to carry." Jasmine studied her mother's face, wanting to believe her and refusing to confuse wanting with proof. "Why now?" she asked. Ruth looked back at the glowing house. "Because when everyone started asking me what happened, I wanted to blame you. I really did. Then Alex asked if you were still covering next month, and I heard how ugly it sounded." Jasmine's eyes burned, but she did not let the tears fall. "It sounded ugly because it was ugly." Ruth nodded. "Yes." The word was small, but it was the first honest one Jasmine had heard from her all night. Her father came out next, slower, coat half-buttoned. He stood beside Ruth and looked at Jasmine through the cracked window. "I should have asked more questions," he said. Jasmine answered, "Yes, you should have." He winced, but he did not argue. That mattered. Alex opened the front door behind them, holding a child on one hip, his expression still sour. "So what? We're all supposed to beg now?" he said. Jasmine looked past her parents at him. "No. You're supposed to parent your children, pay your bills, and stop using Mom to ask me for money when you're too proud to do it yourself." Megan, standing behind him, whispered his name sharply. Alex's face flushed. Ruth turned around. "Alex, enough." The porch went quiet. Jasmine had never heard Ruth use that tone on him. Not once. Alex stared at her like the world had tilted. "You're taking her side?" Ruth's shoulders sagged. "I'm taking responsibility." That was when Jasmine felt the first real shift. Not forgiveness. Not repair. Just the faint possibility that truth had finally cost the right people something. Ruth had lost face in front of relatives. Alex had lost the protection of being the son who could do no wrong. Her father had lost the comfort of pretending ignorance was innocence, and Jasmine had lost the illusion that being needed was the same as being loved. She opened the car door and stepped out, but she did not walk back inside. "I'm driving back to Milwaukee tonight," she said. Ruth's face crumpled. "Tonight?" Jasmine nodded. "And I'm accepting Chicago. If you want to see me, you can plan a visit. You can ask in advance. You can respect no as a complete answer." Ruth wiped her cheek. "Will you ever forgive me?" Jasmine looked at the house, at the lit windows she had paid to keep glowing, at the family gathered inside now forced to see the cost of pretending one person could be used forever. "Maybe," she said, "but forgiveness will not come with autopay." Jasmine did not stay for dessert. She did not help clear plates, did not pack leftovers, did not settle the children, did not sit with Ruth at the kitchen table while everyone else went home and absorb her mother's guilt until Ruth felt better. She placed the blue bowl carefully in the back seat, checked that her overnight bag was still zipped, and stood beside the car while Ruth hovered near the porch steps like she wanted a hug but knew she had not earned the old kind. Jasmine walked over anyway. She hugged her mother lightly, not with surrender, not with the desperate closeness of a daughter trying to be chosen, but with the careful compassion of a woman who had finally chosen herself. Ruth held on too tightly. Jasmine gently stepped back. "I forgive you enough not to hate you," she said. "But forgiveness does not mean I go back to being the person you can drain and insult." Ruth covered her mouth, crying silently now. Behind her, Alex was still inside, arguing with Megan while one child wailed about a missing mitten. The sound might have pulled Jasmine in once. Tonight, it only confirmed how trained she had been to run toward other people's discomfort and away from her own dignity. Her father came down the steps and handed her a folded piece of paper. It's the pension statement, he said quietly, and our checking balance. Not because I'm asking you to fix it, because I should have known where we stood. Jasmine accepted it, then handed it back. Look at it with Mom tomorrow. Make a plan without me first. He nodded, ashamed but listening. That was all she could ask for now. The drive out of Madison was quiet. At the first red light, her phone buzzed with a message from Aunt Linda. I'm sorry I stayed quiet. You were brave tonight. Jasmine stared at it for a moment, then typed. Being brave should not be required to be treated fairly. She sent it and placed the phone face down. Snow had started to fall, soft and thin, catching in the headlights like tiny sparks. By the time she reached the highway, the city lights were behind her, and for the first time in years, Jasmine did not feel guilty for leaving them there. The next morning, Ruth called once. Jasmine did not answer immediately. She waited until she had coffee in her hand and sunlight coming through her apartment window. When she called back, Ruth did not ask about the bills first. She said, I opened the spreadsheet you sent last month. I should have opened it then. Jasmine closed her eyes. It was not enough. It was not repair. But it was a beginning that did not require Jasmine to bleed for it. 3 weeks later, she accepted the Chicago position officially. 6 weeks later, she moved into a small apartment with tall windows overlooking a row of brick buildings and winter-bare trees. On her first night there, she placed the blue bowl on her own dining table and filled it with oranges. Ruth texted a photo of the first utility bill she had paid herself, with one sentence, "We handled it." Jasmine smiled, not because everything was fixed, but because the responsibility had finally landed where it belonged. The lesson Jasmine carried with her was simple. Family is not a place where one person proves their value by sacrificing without limits. Real family respects boundaries before resentment becomes a language. When you stay silent too long, you may think you are keeping the peace, but sometimes you are only teaching people how to take from you without gratitude. Saying no does not destroy a healthy relationship. It reveals whether the relationship was healthy in the first place. Jasmine did not win because her parents struggled for a month, or because Alex had to face embarrassment. She won because she stopped confusing guilt with love. She won because she learned that being useful is not the same as being valued. And when her plane lifted off for Chicago on a cold, gray morning, she looked down at the shrinking streets below and smiled softly. Not because the lights had gone out, because hers had finally come back on.